So, Stephanie White is a coach. She is a pretty good WNBA coach and a coach that the Indiana Fever are looking at. But from everything I have been reading online, it seems highly unlikely that she stays with the Connecticut Sun. The reason is like, obviously there are like family issues going on, and she's talked about how like that's more important than basketball, which obviously is the case. It's obviously the case. But she is from Illinois. Obviously, the Chicago Sky is in Illinois. They don't have a coach. The Indiana Fever are looking to upgrade from Christie Sides, and Indiana is probably as close. Like, if you're not going to the Sky, Indiana is the next closest team. So, you're seeing that, like, she is still in talk with the, we saw from Sports Illustrated, Stephanie White in talks with multiple teams. And obviously the Sun, the team she's currently under contract with, she's still in talks with them. And it's not talks on like, oh, whether or not, it's basically talks on whether or not like she's going to be able to stay. Because I think she will probably like go, like finish out her contract. Well, she kind of has to. But obviously for family reasons, she has to be closer to family. Then obviously they kind of have to, let's be real, you're not going to force someone's hands in that regard. But at the same time, the fact that she's talking with other teams means, yeah, there's no way. The fact that she's talking to other teams means there's no way she's going back to Connecticut. There's no reason, because for basketball, like, it's literally, there's no basketball reason you go to Chicago Sky. If the Chicago Sky are one of the teams you're talking to, it's basically just because where you're based, where you're located. So we have got this article right here. I'm going to read it, and it's like the Indiana Fever need to go all in on Stephanie White. And our other article is basically saying that Stephanie White really has to make a choice where it's like she has to make the choice of, do you coach Caitlin Clark or do you coach Angel Reese, from Marca right here. From a Spanish website, I think. I don't speak Spanish. English. Sign up. I don't know what's going on. But again, it says here she's been in discussion with multiple teams, and basically it's to coach one of the league's rising stars in Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese. But it says here in this article that they need to go all in on Stephanie White, and I actually don't agree with this. For why not Christie Sides? Stephanie might be a massive upgrade in Christie Sides. I agree. White is much better at defensive schemes. I mean, Christie Sides does not know anything about defense. She's a defensive coach who doesn't know anything about defense. She can really coach up the younger players. For a team as young as the Fever, it's best to have a veteran head coach. Someone's been to a finals, someone who's experienced with a winning culture. And she's also been to the finals with Indiana. Like, that is an important one that people don't really realize. That, like, she's been to the finals with Indiana. So, like, that matters. That 100% matters in the grand scheme of things. But, yeah, says what the Fever need to do is offer her a contract she can't refuse. The Fever are going to outpay the Sky. Realistically, if it comes down to money, it's going to be the Fever over the Sky. The Sky still have an extremely cheap owner, whereas the Indiana Fever have got, like, in fairness, they have an owner who, when he cares, Herb Simon, we saw in the NBA, is been a pretty good owner in the NBA. We know he's gonna be he's gonna be a good owner when he cares in the WNBA. So yeah, like, should they go all in on a Stephanie White? Yes, she's just so much better than Sides, and that's where the problem is. Where it's like, I don't think she's that much better than Kurt Miller. Because you see everything Stephanie White's done now, that was Kurt Miller prior to LA. And Kurt Miller got an awful situation in LA. He took the team from freaking... He took over the mess that Derek Fisher left them. And then got fired after tanking. But, like, you've got Stephanie White there, who is basically a coach, did the exact same thing. In fact, she did less with the Connecticut Sun than Kurt Miller did. Kurt Miller at least made even 2 finals. At least he made 2 finals. In fairness, he did have Jonquel Jones, but that's like an argument for another day. But I don't think losing out on Stephanie White is the worst thing in the world. I think it's more important for me that Chicago gets in a Stephanie White type coach rather than their other option, which is meant to be like Latricia Trammell. Like, if I'm Chicago, because we saw what she did with the Sun, what she can do with a lineup that can't really shoot. And I think that you're going to need a coach like that to coach Reese and Cardoso, because I think it's going to be very hard to get them both really realistically able to be on the floor at the same time and effective on the floor at the same time. So while the Indiana Fever obviously should be the first option, Stephanie White to be the Atlanta Dream head coach, that was a week ago. Okay, I was about to say, I was like, when was that? I was like, why would she go to the Atlanta Dream? That's something that like is just out of nowhere. But yeah, I just think that the Fever need to... I think it's better to do what the Fever are doing than what the other teams are doing. Like, there are literally teams that are now like panicking. They're trying to panic sign a coach because they're like, oh crap, we need to know who our coach is before the expansion draft. So they're like panic signing coaches, and they're probably going to panic sign a coach. They're in panic mode because the draft is like 4 or 5 weeks from now. So they all need coaches by then. And realistically, if you're going to want to replace your coach, you're going to want it before then. But at the same time, like, if you can't get a coach by then, just go out there with Christy Sides next year. That's the thing, though. You just have to accept, though, that you're not winning in 2025. That's the one thing when it comes to Christy Sides. You just have to accept you are not winning. You have to accept you are not winning. You have to accept if Grace Berger is on the squad, if there are young players in the squad, they are not going to get on the floor unless they are like the top picks. We saw Grace Berger at stages in the year. Grace Berger, Lexi Hull, and Celeste Taylor were all getting DNPs at the same time, which is obviously ridiculous. So yeah, like, if you go out with Christy Sides for another year, you know we're not winning. We might win our playoff series, but we're not winning a title. Our players are not going to develop as individuals. We might get better as a team, but like, our players aren't going to develop, and whoever we draft in the first round is probably going to sit on the bench for Christy Wallace. But yeah, that is pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Like, the only reason I'm so high on getting Stephanie White is that there is like actual talks there, and she's just so much better than Christy Sides. But if I heard that the Indiana Fever hire Kurt Miller, I would be equally as happy. If I hear that the Indiana Fever hire one of the Pacers assistant coaches, I'm equally as happy. Just as long as the Indiana Fever do not start next season with Christy Sides, I am happy.